remember, the process will be, at this point, Judge Robinson issues a decision. Either side can appeal. Both sides can appeal. Watson can appeal to try to get a lower punishment. The league can appeal to try to get a higher punishment. If the league pushes through and Roger Goodell ultimately overturns the decision and imposes a longer suspension than whatever Judge Robinson decides to implement, that's when the court process becomes a possibility. I wrote something about this earlier today, and I think it's worth mentioning here. And we need to understand, just as a basic matter of how this works. You've got two private entities, NFL Players Association. Under the federal labor laws, they put together a collective bargaining agreement that includes a process for dealing with these kinds of controversies. Player gets in trouble off the field. There is a procedure in the CBA for implementing discipline on him based upon whether or not he actually did it. That's all handled between the parties. It is an alternate dispute resolution process. It reduces the number of cases that otherwise would go to court. And the courts love this. There's been an explosion over the last 40 years or so of these ADR techniques, mediation, arbitration, etc. And every case that gets resolved without a judge being involved is one less case that has to be thrown onto a federal or state court legal docket. And judges don't get paid by the case. They don't get paid by the hour. They get paid by the year. So they don't want any more work than they otherwise get, and they love it when that work otherwise is done through a private process. And I say all that because you have to overcome that mindset if you're going to get a judge to take up the case of Deshaun Watson versus the National Football League. We saw it with Tom Brady several years ago. He won at the trial court level, ultimately lost on appeal. We saw it with Ezekiel Elliott. There were some initial victories, but at the end of the day, he lost too. And one of the reasons why I believe that Deshaun Watson would quite possibly lose, there has been precedent created by the Brady case and the Elliott case, the reasoning as to these procedures, that they should be respected, that they are bargained for by a union. It's going to be hard for Deshaun Watson to have something tangible that would properly overturn whatever the result of this collectively bargained process is. But when you look a little more carefully, in the two cases, Brady and Elliott, there were 8 total judges that looked at the issue, 4 sided with the players, 4 sided with the league. So there is a lot of potential forum shopping and maybe a race to a courthouse here or there that could become a factor. I know I talked about that yesterday, but I can't rule out the possibility of litigation. And there still is a possibility that if the NFLPA can thread the popcorn just right, that maybe they can end up getting themselves an outcome that results in the Deshaun Watson suspension that ultimately is imposed by the commissioner after Judge Robinson does her work being overturned.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.